Animating on Photoshop is actually pretty easy and is easy to create and easy to work with. And a lot of people are not aware of the fact that you can create animations or just video layers on Photoshop. So if you were one of those people, in this lesson you will see that it's possible, and you will also learn how to create your own video layers and your animation. Alright, so when we think of videos, we know that it's not a square, it's a rectangle, maybe 1080 by 1920, depending on whether it's HD, 4K, and we will have to create a canvas size that is suitable for animations. Unless you want to create a GIF file, then you would just make a squared canvas or a another dimension. Alright, let's create our file. Go to create new, and then if you look up here, there's actually a preset for film and video. We have HD 1080p, HDV, HDTV, 720p, HDV 1080p, and DVCPRO HD 720p. And notice how all of the pixels per inch is the same. The only difference is the canvas size. So depending on where you want to publish this, are you just doing this for practice, you would choose one of these guys to get your video. The one with the least amount of quality is obviously the one with the least amount of dimensions. It would be this guy, and this will be the highest. So because this is just for demonstration purposes, I will just go with this. You can choose your background content. We have created our video file, and you can see we already get these. These are helpful because when you're animating, you want to keep everything within a frame, so if you want to scale it in or out, there won't be an issue. Now, the thing about making animations is that you will not be working with this workspace. It has its own separate workspace, and we'll get into that soon. But before I do that, I want to show you guys that you can make your own background for your animation in the regular Photoshop workspace. Only because it's easier to do it here than in the motion workspace. I will just create a really random background. I'll use gradients so that I could put my animations on this. We'll just make a random gradient. Alright, this is my background. Call it BG. Now let's change our window to our workspace into motion. Right now you're on Essentials. This is for 3D work, graphic and web, motion, painting, photography. By default you would be on this, but depending on what you're doing, you would change between them. And once you choose something else, you can always come back and change your workspace. So let's go to motion. And this is the workspace that we will be working with. It has this additional timeline, which is used for editing videos or just creating keyframes. Alright, now we can go ahead and start our animation. But the thing is that this is a regular Photoshop layer, so we cannot really create any sort of motion onto this. We choose a hard round brush. Whatever we do here will just go in our background, which will be behind our animation. So don't touch this. And now let's go ahead and create our video timeline. You have some options. You have video timeline and you have frame animation. Let's start with video. Hit once. Now you can see that the background layer is actually here. I'll kind of expand this timeline. Zoom this out. Alright. You can see we're getting some tips. Now we need to add new video layers. So go to Layer, Video Layers, New Video Layer from File. If you have a video layer that you would like to bring into your animation, maybe it's like a looping rain effect, or you could just make a blank one. We're going to start with the blank one. If you look here, the normal layer doesn't have anything. This has a video icon because it is for video. Now if I make something here and then I go through it, you can see that there's nothing there, even though we created this heart. Because our settings is on 30 frames per second, so we will need at least 30 frames to make 1 full second of video. So whatever you draw right now is actually 1 frame and not 1 second. So in order to go through between frames, you need to first enable a setting. You would have to set the shortcuts. If you're moving your arrow keys and you're not getting any effect, go to this little thing here and then go enable timeline shortcut keys. So once you press that, you should be able to move between frames with no issue. Use the left and right arrow keys to move back and forth. As you can see, the heart is disappearing. I will draw something else on the second frame. I'll draw like a equal sign. So first it's a heart, then it's this. And this is how the animation is created. After you put like as many frames as you want, once you play it back, it will look like an actual animation. I hit Ctrl Z, and if you want to delete anything, just use the eraser tool. It will not affect our background because it is a separate layer. Now, what if I am drawing, let's say, a face? We'll draw a face here, and he's sad. In the next frame, I want to make him happy. How do I know where I drew the face? Because if I try to do it again, it will clearly not be in the same spot. See, it's a complete different spot, and it will be hard for me to guess around and try to find where I drew my first face. So I will have to create something or enable something that is called onion skins. Like an onion where you peel each skin and you get a new layer. It's a similar thing here. So go back in this option thing and then enable onion skins. You saw that it became a little darker. This is for the layer 1. Let's call this animation. Call it animation. Remember to always name your layers to make things easier for yourself throughout the process. Now if I draw a circle, that's a weird circle. Draw a circle, make my character. In the next frame, you can see I can tell where I drew my first circle. So I will try to recreate that. If you have a touchpad or a pen, things will be a lot more smoother. But we're just going to go with the mouse. And after I draw this, you can see that if I go to the next frame, I have the outline of my first frame. So again, if I get my brush and I make a shape, first shape, then I move to the next frame, I can see the outline of my first shape. Then if I wanted to make the same character, I would just try to follow the lines, but this time make him laugh. And then in the next frame, it's the second thing we drew. So it's always the previous frame for you to have a reference when you draw the new frame. And if you wanted to play this back, turn off your onion skins. So first frame, second frame, third frame. So that's how onion skins work. You can always delete each frame by moving with the arrow keys, the right and the left one. Then you would just erase using the eraser tool. Now if and there's another thing, where is it? If you want to adjust your onion skins, then you just have to go to a setting, go here, and then go to onion skin settings. And then you would choose, do you want 2 frames before, 1 frame, how many frames after? Do you want to space them? Do you want to change the opacity? You would do it all here, but I suggest sticking with the default things, because once you're trying to draw, you just want the previous frame. And as you move on, your drawings will make sense. But if you have like maybe 2 or 3, it will get a little confusing. So just leave the settings be, although you can change the opacity if you want. If we make it like 90, you can see it gets darker. So that's what they mean by opacity. but I like to leave the default settings. Okay, and if you want to play back, you will have to first, if there's a lot going on, make sure you render video, and then you can get a smooth playback. You can loop playback, which means that once it's finished, it will start again on its own. And you can trim it if you want, convert the frames, your work area, delete the whole timeline, and you can make a comment, allow frame skipping, show video groups only, just a bunch of settings that you might need. If you go in panel options, you can choose the thumbnail size. It's on the default. I like to leave the defaults. And yeah, if you can don't close the tab group because we need that. So this is just a easy demonstration. Now let's try a related moving animation and see how that works. So I'm gonna get my hard round brush, make it bigger, and just make like one dot here. Go to my next frame. I have the onion skins on. I will choose a lighter color. I'm not seeing my swatches here, so just go to window. Where is my swatches? And get your swatches. Oh, it was right here. I'm gonna choose like red so it's vibrant and we can see it. Just make, oh, that's the previous frame. Go to the first frame, make a dot, second frame, kind of continue along a curve. So I can show you guys how the motion works. Let's make it look like when the ball hits the floor, it explodes, and we could add like this little puddle below it. Let me zoom in. We'll make like a little puddle to show that the ball exploded. And just color in. You can choose the soft round brush if you're working with characters or a less detailed shape. Alright, now I will go back, zoom out, turn off my onion skins, and if you play it using the spacebar, you can see how fast it is because we haven't made enough frames to fit a full second. Alright, we made this less than 1 second animation, as you can see here. Now, the thing that you have to keep in mind is that when you want to export this, you need to at least have 1 full second of animation, because when you play it, it goes by so fast that you won't even notice. So, like we said, we are on 30 frames per second, so you need to make 30 frames if you want a decent video to come out. And if you make more, that's even better. Because as you can see, if I hit play, before I even set my eyes on it, it's gone. So that's why we want to add detail, as much as detail as possible, or maybe limit the space between the two, because if you look, this is where it ended. The next one is skipping this space. So if I wanted to last longer, I would bring them a lot closer, maybe have them interact with one another, just to make more frames and to reach a full second.